Hello guys, what is up? My name is Dylan. Welcome to the Popcorn Podcast. This is episode number 79. Today on the couch, guys, we have a very special guest who makes his third appearance on the Popcorn Podcast. Mr. MovieComicJunkie is back and here to talk about one of the biggest blockbusters of the summer. Blockbuster number 3 or 4, I want to say. I would say this is after F1 and Jurassic World. But of course, before Fantastic Four, which is coming out in the next couple of weeks. Today, guys, of course, as the title says, as the thumbnail shows, we're going to be talking about Superman. It's a big one. Of course, Mr. MovieComicJunkie was here for the first time talking about another huge franchise, that being Lord of the Rings, because when it comes to Lord of the Rings, there is no one better, but also few better when it comes to the world of comics as well. So, welcome back, Sandy. So good to be having you back on.
Yep, lovely to be back.
This is an episode that we just had to sit down for, and it's too big of a film, I would say.
It had to happen.
It had to happen indeed. It had to happen indeed. And apologies, guys. This episode is going out a little later than it usually would. We did manage to see the film. We were at the same press screening. It was the multimedia screening Warner Bros. Did last week, as of when we're recording this. And it was an epic night. It was a fantastic night, which we'll get into in a second. But I wanted to sort of kickstart the episode with a little bit of history on the Man of Steel himself. So, of course, Superman. Faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. The words that defined Superman back in 1938. Since Action Comics #1, he's been the blueprint for the modern superhero. A symbol of hope, justice, and the ultimate immigrant story. On the screen, we've seen wildly different takes on the Man of Steel. Back in the 70s and 80s, we had Richard Donner take on the iconic superhero, of course depicted by Christopher Reeve, his wholesome, iconic portrayal of the Man of Steel. And in the 2000s, Bryan Singer took on the helm in a more nostalgic sort of return to the big screen. And of course, more recently, Mr. Zack Snyder going for a more sort of darker, conflicted Man of Steel in the 2010s. But all of these different eras ask the same question. And that, of course, is what does Superman mean today? Now, Mr. James Gunn takes the reins to reintroduce Superman and launch a new DC universe. No origin story, no setup, straight into a world of Kryptonians, capes, and chaos. But the big question, of course, is, does this new vision soar, or does it stumble? We shall find out. Let's get into it.
That was an intro.
It was an intro. I'm glad you liked it, man. I worked a little bit on that. Yeah.
I could tell.
Sandy, I just wanted to just to kind of kick this off. I wanted to just straight up ask you, what was your first kind of experience seeing Superman, or any kind of experience, whether that be straight from the comics or on the big screen? When was your first time sort of properly being introduced to this character?
Oh, it was the comics.
The comics.
Yeah, I was a comic book boy. It was definitely the comics, man.
Had to happen.
He's just the best, and I loved him. I remember, like, I must have been maybe like 7, 8.
Yeah.
My mum didn't get it for me. I saw it in the library and I read it. It was a Superman comic. I can't remember what it was, but I was just like, I was mesmerized. Like, as a child, you always love Superman and Spider-Man. Those are the two you love. And then you grow up a little bit and you start loving Batman more because he's got a bit more of an edge and you're a bit older. But Superman's just always been, he's for the children. He's for everyone. Yes. He's a beacon of hope. And then I saw the old Christopher Reeve movies. That first one especially is just, it's magic, and Christopher Reeve is magical.
Yes, he is.
Like, I've never seen anyone so perfectly embody this character who's larger than life and lives above us but tries to integrate himself with us. And it was just, I just love Superman so much, which is why this movie was the movie of the year for me. This is what I was waiting for.
Yeah.
And
I remember speaking to you sort of when we shot the season finale of last year. And of course, everyone was sort of talking about what their most anticipated films were. And of course, without a second's thought, it was this. Amazing. So literally straight from the comics, that was your first sort of experience with Superman. Wow. That's pretty cool. I also had, my first experience wasn't from a comic book. It was through the Richard Donner film. And I remember seeing that sort of kind of in the 2000s, I want to say. And at the time, similar to kind of what you just said, I was a Sam Raimi fanboy. At the time, I loved X-Men. Those were the comic book characters that I really loved and resonated with at the time. So my introduction to Superman, I didn't love him at first. I thought he was cool, and I thought he was you know, but for me, he was never quite as interesting as the more edgy, like you said, slightly darker characters going into the X-Men and whatnot, and of course Spider-Man. But I remember I had an assignment in year 7 when I was 11 years old, and it was an English assignment, and it was about sort of comic book characters or comic book films and their kind of impact on sort of literature and pop culture. And the 2 films that we studied in English class and we had to write an essay on and whatnot was the original Superman by Richard Donner and Ang Lee's Hulk from back in 2003. I don't know why they picked that.
I was going to say legendary from your teacher, but then Ang Lee's Hulk.
Yeah, I know. We started
terrible, but
yeah, it's not. It's nostalgic, but it's not great though at the same time.
No, it's not.
So I remember writing about Superman and how like sort of all the different kind of filmmaking elements and how going from the comic book page to the big screen, the elements that they had like sort of took straight from the comics and the ones they kind of played around with more and adapted for the big screen. So my kind of first proper experience with Superman was via like academics, I would say. But for me, that module, I remember, never really felt to me like it was like school. It was like a fun sort of assignment that I was like, oh my God, I get to talk about comic book films. This is amazing. So I watched that Richard Donner film and I really fell in love with it. Like just everything about, I think it's such a magical film. Even now watching it, like you
can say it feels quaint and whatnot, and sure it does in a sense, but I don't know. I feel like there's an authenticity to it. There's just it's hard to explain, but it is magical. It's like almost ethereal. Just John Williams' score is amazing.
Yeah,
the acting's incredible. Just everything.
I remember that film literally like it was yesterday the first time I watched it. And yeah, it was a very informative film in my sort of upbringing through cinema, I want to say. I remember watching that and I was like, yeah, this is amazing. This is why all the adults talk about this film so highly. You know, I get it. Yeah. But yeah, the Man of Steel's sort of reincarnations over time haven't always been received the best. You know, he's always been a sort of very controversial he's had a lot of controversial reactions, I want to say. Some people love, say Zack Snyder's films, some people don't love Zack Snyder's films, and now of course James Gunn has this huge task ahead of him. So I think both of us, I mean, you probably more so, very excited going into this one. Yeah,
I cried before the film started. I'm not joking. I was sat next to Josiah and Sophie, and I started tearing up. They're like, "What's wrong with you?" I'm like, "I can't help it. Superman, I can't." It was crazy.
That was a great night as well. We went to the Warner Bros. Multimedia screening, like we just said, and
everyone was there. It was great.
Everyone was there. Yeah. I remember going to that. I remember I arrived in Leicester Square, and the queue. I've never seen a queue like this for a multimedia ever. It was insane. It went like all the way to Piccadilly Circus, basically.
It was insane.
Crazy stuff. And I shouldn't be jumping the line, but I was walking, and then Seth was like, to jump it, and I was like, okay.
Was so far behind as well.
Yeah. I still had to wait a while, but yeah. But it was a great event. Photo ops, people dressed up as Superman, red and blue, wherever you looked. It was a magical night. Fantastic. And of course, the audience was just an electric kind of audience to see this film with, and the perfect sort of setting for us both to experience this, I would say.
100%.
Yeah. Well, guys, if you haven't seen Superman, please don't continue further, because we are going to be discussing spoilers. We're going to be breaking down, reviewing the film in as much of it as we can. So, disclaimer, we are going to be talking spoilers. So if you haven't seen the film, please go check it out and come back to this discussion at a later time. So I'm going to do a little plot synopsis to kind of get things going. So, in Superman, Clark Kent is already established as the Man of Steel, protecting a world teeming with metahumans, alien technology, and political tensions. As he juggles his double life as a reporter at the Daily Planet and Earth's greatest hero, a looming threat pulls him into a high-stakes battle that spans from Metropolis to alternate universes. With familiar allies and dangerous new foes, including the enigmatic Justice Gang and his arch-nemesis Lex Luthor, Superman must confront challenges that test not only his strength, but his ideals, as he strives to inspire hope in a divided world. This film is directed by James Gunn, of course, and the film launches a bold new era for DC's cinematic universe. Here we go. So, Sandy, as usual, as you are the guest, why don't you kick this one off? What did you think of Superman? Just go straight into it, mate.
I liked it. Okay. I really liked it. I didn't love it. You know, I wanted to be there and be like, yes, this is it. This is everything. It wasn't everything, but I liked it, and I liked it enough. I'll get into exactly what those are in a minute when we start talking about that, but I think generally speaking, I think this film gets so much right.
Yeah.
Like, there was a lot riding on it. This is the first film in the DCU. This is gonna change everything. Like, if it does well, it's gonna go forward. If it doesn't, who knows? And I think generally speaking, Superman was great. David Corenswet is amazing as Superman. Rachel Brosnahan is amazing as Lois Lane. Nicholas Hoult is incredible as Lex Luthor. Yeah. Eddie Gathegi is Mr. Terrific. Isabella Merced's Hawkgirl. Nathan Fillion, Guy Gardner. Everything works. Every character works. Crypto's incredible. Just across the board, when it comes to the acting and the characters, everything pops. Everything's great. What I don't like comes from it's a more nuanced and subtle discussion on over exposition and maybe course correcting from the previous iteration of Superman. But for everything it needed to get right, I think it did so enough. That's my general opinion on this.
Yeah, I think I kind of agree with. I would say I will say I'm very mixed on the film. So I think you seem to be have had enjoyed it a bit more than me. That being said, I had an absolute blast watching the film. Like I said, it was the perfect kind of screening atmosphere, people to go and see this film with. Massive comic book fans, myself included. I'm not the most I want to say I know a good deal about a lot about Superman, but I wouldn't say I'm the craziest Superman fan. So this is when you're gonna have to step in at some point in the episode and go through the Easter eggs, etc. But I had such a blast with this film. It's fun, it's vibrant, it's full of energy. Everything about sort of Superman is here, his ideals, his legacy, the imagery, the red and blue sort of cape flapping, as Tyrone Magnus says, hope restored. James Gunn had a huge task ahead of him, and I think for the most part, in terms of how getting the character right and what that character is supposed to be and hopefully will go on to be, I think I agree with you, and I think that is one of the strongest aspects of this film, I would say. Although I have a very mixed reaction to it, there is a huge sigh of relief for me, I would say, definitely.
Yeah. I'm we're in the right hands, we're going in a good direction.
Yeah. Yeah, and also to just a second kind of what you said about the casting. I think the castings here are fantastic, absolutely brilliant. David Corenswet, Rachel Brosnahan, Nicholas Hoult, all three of them, I would say, is in the main trio. I think they both have this kind of really good balance between a sort of classic charisma, but also a more modern sensibility that they bring. And I'm excited to see where they take their characters. I've got couple of nitpicks here and there on just not per se their performances, but I do feel like when we get into the mixed aspects, for me, one of the big sort of downers for me was I did have a lot of problems with the script, and I did feel like, unfortunately, that main trio ended up being, for me, a little underutilized and a little I felt like I've wanted a lot more time with them, I would say. But we'll come on to that in a little bit. Of course, James Gunn, who's known for mainly the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy, and also, of course, the Suicide Squad. He brings that similar kind of zany kind of energy to this. It's very much a James Gunn depiction of Superman, as it is a sort of mass pleasing Superman, I want to say. And also, just going back to the experience of watching it, just smiles all around, blue and red wherever you looked. It was brilliant. It was such a good time. But yeah, James Gunn though. Why do you feel like James Gunn is the right person to take this character on? Or what about James Gunn's depiction of Superman did you enjoy?
I think James Gunn's always been that guy for me, where I'm I don't think he can do it, and he constantly proves me wrong. Yeah. Guardians film after Guardians film, the Suicide Squad, even his older movies, I'm surely he can't do this, and he somehow does. The Peacemaker show, that's a character I didn't care about one bit. And then we got an incredible season of television, and I'm okay, he can do it. James Gunn can do it. And I think when you look at that, and then you look at his slate of movies just outside of Superman, his Gods and Monsters plan, he's got a Clayface movie coming up. It's such rogue picks you'd never consider, and that's what he's going with. I'm but then at the same time, he made the Guardians of the Galaxy work. They were nobodies before that film. Yeah. And now they're Marvel's A tier. Yeah,
absolutely. I think exactly what you said. He's always had that kind of that soft spot for the kind of lesser known characters, the misfits, the ones that aren't necessarily the ones leaping off the comic book pages. But you know, he has a soft spot for them and wants to tell those stories. And of course, this character is kind of the complete opposite of, you know, he's like what. Everybody in the world knows who Superman is, basically, more or less.
Most iconic superhero ever.
Yeah, he's one of the most iconic superheroes ever. He's one of the most popular characters in pop culture ever. Taking on, you know, this is such a huge task. And I remember seeing a lot of like sort of promo beforehand, and you can see the amount of passion he has for the character, and it's very evident when you watch this film. You know, there's so much passion leaping out of the screen. I feel like James Gunn, for me, similar to you, you know, I don't think he's made a bad film. For me, he's a very safe director, but that's not a bad thing. What I mean by safe is, a lot of people say, oh, you're a safe director, as in like, oh yeah, they play it safe, they don't take risks. Complete opposite with James Gunn. James Gunn is someone who takes risks. When I mean safe, I mean he's just got a really good record, a good track record of producing bangers.
He'll make at least a good movie.
Exactly. And I think, again, here he does pull it off, although I don't quite think this film, for me, I think all three Guardians films I still prefer, I want to say, and I even prefer the Suicide Squad a little bit. You're nodding your head.
I think I don't love Guardians 2, but it might be above Superman. Like I do love this film, I really do. I really like it, but I wish it was a lot more, and I wish it was at the level of Guardians 1 and 3, and even the Suicide Squad. I do think.
I think that's the kind of, and part of it is our fault, because we've got such huge expectations for this film. It's like we liked it, but it's like the kind of the feeling we got out of when we walked out of the cinema was like, yeah, it was good. However, there is a couple bits missing. You know, you're not fully satisfied. What about the film do you feel like was lacking? Like, why don't we go with that?
Okay, we'll go straight into it. I don't want to say I blame Zack Snyder, because I don't. He had an interpretation of Superman, and that's perfectly fine. You can have different interpretations. And I love Henry Cavill's version for loads of different reasons, but that's not the classic Superman character. But what I think has happened is that sort of seeped into the public consciousness, and the general public's perception is that is Superman. And I feel like I know this because I've talked about this film with a bunch of people who don't know comics at all, and they're like, this film seems a bit silly and a bit unserious, not like Henry Cavill. And I'm like, yeah, it does, but that is the character. But because of that, I feel like James Gunn, because of what Zack Snyder and Henry Cavill did to give us this more dark, Herculean, gothic Superman, James Gunn had to pull back, but he pulled back too hard, and he pulled back too far. And I feel like there are moments of there are just moments where characters just say their entire motivations. They just spew it out for you, like they're spoon feeding you. Like, I think one of the greatest things about film is when, you know,
show don't tell.
Yeah, show don't tell, exactly. Things are given to you subtly, and like, you know, you figure out yourself, and that gives you like a greater sense of like catharsis when you come out of a film. But there was literally a moment in this film where Superman's like, I'm more of a human than you are, I'm a good person, blah blah blah, even if I'm not from this planet. I'm like, we know, like, we've seen it. You don't need to say that to us. There's a moment where Lex Luthor does that as well, where Lex is like, oh no, I'm a vain guy, I completely understand. And I'm like, that's great, because the audience needs to know that Lex understands that even though he's the smartest man on the planet, like, this obsession is crazy. Like, that's a great moment, but Superman doesn't need to say that. And I feel like there are moments like that of over exposition, over explanation, which just it brings it down for me.
It's almost like James Gunn for this film almost like didn't trust the audience enough to you know, to get those things. You know, what's one of the most kind of frustrating kind of criticisms for films is when the director, when the filmmaker, the person telling the story, you know, doesn't trust the audience to be able to grasp these ideas, even if the ideas are very sort of obvious and you know, there for you to kind of just, you know, you kind of know it instantly. No, I completely agree with you. I feel like, sort of just to kind of build on off what you were saying, I think Zack Snyder, I will say, like, I'm a huge Man of Steel fan.
Me too.
I love Man of Steel so much. I think it is my favorite DCEU film without a shadow of a doubt. The first time I watched that film, I wasn't a fan. The more I watched it, it's one of those films that just got better and better and better for me. And I'm also a simple guy. You put amazing visuals, you put Superman, you put Hans Zimmer score. There you go.
Yeah. When I said what I said, like, I love Zack Snyder's version of Superman.
Yeah.
He's a great great. Henry Cavill looks like Superman. Like, it's perfect.
That's the thing. I think a lot of people will, like you said, like kind of almost blame Zack Snyder for it. But I do think that kind of perception of Superman stems much more than the Man of Steel depiction or Batman vs Superman. I think it goes back to kind of the early 2000s when even just sort of action films or superhero films started becoming less goofy and more of these kind of grounded, more gritty, darker sort of depictions. And of course Nolan had a huge part to play with that in the Dark Knight trilogy, the Bourne films. They sort of completely revolutionized the way action films were made, sort of that more kind of gritty, realistic kind of versions. And obviously Nolan wrote the script for Man of Steel as well. He was integral in producing that film as well. So I feel like that kind of sort of darker, more gothic versions was a phase of comic book films that started in the 2000s and kind of stayed with audiences. And of course I think people are still almost like shaking that off now, and they still haven't fully taken the plunge into, I think, what is a more sort of truer, more nostalgic, more kind of golden era depictions of these characters, I would say. Because
it's not just Man of Steel. We had the Dark Knight trilogy. We had like the old school X-Men films. Like, you weren't even allowed to wear yellow spandex. Like, it was just
exactly. But like, I did have a lot of problems with the script. I think, like, for me and you, I think going into this film, we know who Lex Luthor is. We know, about the Kryptonians' history. We know that Krypto the dog exists. We know that the Fortress of Solitude exists. We know all these kind of different things. But I think for the average moviegoer who doesn't know that much about Superman, or the world of Superman at least, I do think the script here neglects a lot of the context that I think some of the more regular viewers would need in order to fully kind of have a more enriching experience, I think, with it. I respect James Gunn because why do we need to have another origin story? We don't. Just, going straight in there. This is a universe that already has established Kryptonians and pocket universes and Fortresses of Solitude and super dogs and the Justice Gang and all these kind of things. But I do think for maybe the average goer, it might be quite a jarring sort of thing to just sort of go straight in there. But whoa, what the hell is going on?
That's true. In like the first, I want to say 10 minutes, like, Krypto, Fortress of Solitude, Superman robots, then the Hammer of Bravia traveling through a pocket dimension into Lex Luthor Corp. Like, it happens.
I think because of that, for me, like, if I look at Lex Luthor, I think Nicholas Hoult did such a great job with him. I loved his depiction of Lex Luthor, but at the same time, he's just a kind of villain in the film that doesn't really have a beginning, middle and end, like as you would usually expect antagonists to have. And also I do feel like, for me, one of my big problems is, I think due to the sheer volume of characters, all the kind of B villains and the Justice Gang, I felt like were overall kind of unnecessary additions to a film where I thought that if you simplified a lot of the things, some of those thematic beats and moments would have felt a bit more kind of earned for me, I think, or at least you would have felt them a bit more, I want to say.
I think I get what you mean. I was talking to Henry Cavill after the film, and he said this, and I was like, I completely agree. This felt like if we just sort of picked up a comic book. Just, it could be issue 1, it could be issue 20.
Exactly.
Read it, then put it back down. It's like, that works for some people, but at the same time, does that work as like a fulfilling narrative story for a regular person? Maybe not.
Yeah, exactly. And I also think, like, basically going off what you said earlier about sort of almost over-explaining things, Superman does that at the end. I'm more of a human. I'm more human than that's my greatest strength, etc. But also Lex Luthor. I think most people know the story of Superman. But if you look at a character like Lex Luthor, he is just kind of there, and at the very end, he has this sort of outburst. And basically the reason he does what he does, or a lot of the reasons, is because, Superman has become this talking point for the world, and there's a huge sense of jealousy there. Why is no one, applauding me for my genius intellect, and instead have gone with this guy from another planet? Like, that's an interesting idea, but I think it's like, when you leave it to like one scene at the end of the film, it doesn't really have the kind of impact that a villain of that caliber, I feel like, should have, right? but yeah, he was. I loved the performances. Like David Corenswet as well. I mean, he had a huge task ahead of him. Coming after having to take inspiration from Christopher Reeve and the comics and knowing what where the character has been and where James Gunn's vision wants to go, and being that centerpiece. I think he manages to do like amazing stuff in this film.
Yeah, he is my favorite Superman after Christopher Reeve.
Yeah.
That guy's on a different level, but after him I do think this guy Corenswet captures the essence of the character 100%.
He does.
Even as Clark, I think.
Yeah, also Clark as well. Like I feel like one of the more interesting scenes in the film is that interview scene.
It's so good.
It's really good.
So
right?
good.
It's basically like you have Rachel Brosnahan and David Corenswet, and like the chemistry is amazing, and in that scene it's kind of the crux of the film of like the main conflict is summed up in that scene in a lot of ways, and I feel like I wanted kind of a bit more of that. I wanted that more of the kind of Clark Lois stuff. They do have bits here and there, all the romance stuff, which is really beautiful to see, but I think that scene for me was one of my favorite scenes for sure in the film.
Just watching how like both their demeanors change throughout the entire conversation, just how they bounce off each other. I love how much agency Lois Lane has in this film.
Yeah.
She's not just sitting by and just reporting what Clark says. She's biting back. She's like, no, this is how the public would see it. Answer me. It's so good because she's a very tenacious reporter. She's like the best reporter in the Daily Planet, and that's exactly that.
Yeah. It did also sort of weirdly remind me of the original Richard Donner Superman, when Lois on the rooftop first interviews Superman. This is kind of a bit more of a sort of modern kind of version of that, if you want to say, a bit more of the conflict induced there. And that first version of like, do you like the color pink?
Pink
so I liked that. I liked Clark and Lois. I just wish there was a bit more of that. That for sure. What did you think of all the kind of the other editions? Let's start with the Justice Gang. I want to say, what did you think of them?
So first of all, I'm very intrigued because it's not the Justice League, it's the Justice Gang, and it's Maxwell Lord's Justice Gang. So they're a corporate entity like funded by Maxwell Lord. Yeah. So that's a bit confusing. But also the previous iteration of the Justice League or the Justice Society or whatever you want to call them do exist, because you see a massive mural inside the Hall of Justice.
Yeah.
You see like Jay Garrick Flash, you see like Ted Grant Wildcat. There's a bunch of characters up there, and I'm like, so I don't understand what's happening. I need to know what's happening though, and it's very interesting because how is this going to lead into the eventual Justice League we're going to get? Because we're going to get them, obviously. I don't know what that means, but in terms of characters, I think Eddie Gathegi was amazing as Mr. Terrific. First of all, I think he has an extended action sequence which I think just highlights.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah, because people will say this. He might be the smartest man in DC. Like it's either Mr. Terrific, Batman, or Lex Luthor. Canonically, it's normally Lex Luthor, but it could be
Brainiac wherever he is.
Yeah, he's not a man though, but he's smarter than all of them. Yeah. But in terms of men, he could be the smartest man out there, and I love that it's just T-spheres. It's just technology. He's incredible, and I love that he seems to like wish everyone else was as smart as he was.
Yeah.
Not in like a vain way like Lex Luthor. He's like, no, just get it. I'm trying to explain something to you and you don't understand. And
yeah, there are quite a lot of comedic moments where he's clearly like 10 steps ahead of everyone else, and he's just like rolling his eyes like, oh, guys, like, can we go?
Yeah.
And also the action sequence that he has with all the kind of spheres and all that stuff, that was brilliant. And also very kind of similar to, in Guardians 2 with Yondu's arrow.
Yeah.
Brilliant stuff.
Yeah.
James Gunn always nails those kind of moments.
With the music and everything, it was great. Guy Gardner, I loved. I thought he was amazing. That's Guy Gardner. Guy Gardner's a prick. He's not exactly a nice guy.
Yeah.
And I thought Nathan Fillion brought that sort of sarcastic, very brash attitude to him. I think Isabella Mercedes Hawkgirl was sort of the weak point for me. There just wasn't much there.
Yeah.
And she kills Gurkos at the end, and that's fine because she does do that. But yeah, I thought I wanted more from her.
Yeah.
But I think overall, I like the addition of the Justice Gang. I just don't know how that slots into everything. And I think it's more of like a projection for me. I'm like, how does this fit?
Yeah, I think they're cool. I think they're a cool bunch of characters. For me, I think I had a bit of an opposite reaction to you. For me, they kind of seemed a bit more distracting than kind of enriching for me, I would say, in terms of my sort of experience with this film. I think like you said, there are cool ideas and like, clearly a lot of Easter eggs to kind of almost asking the questions, where are we in this universe? Like what time, what's come before, what is yet to come? So all of that stuff is really cool. But I do think, again, like going back to the script, I do think that like due to the sheer volume of other stuff and other things happening, not just the Justice Gang, but also, you know, pocket universes, we take a detour to basically Lex Luthor's kind of like this cosmic prison that he has in a pocket universe. And again, that you do that, but you don't really explain kind of how I'm not looking for some huge explanation on how he's done this, but like again, if you're going back to the fundamentals of storytelling, if an average viewer just goes into this, they're gonna be like, what the hell is going, like, why have we just now teleported into a completely, you know, where did this come, you know? So I feel like some of those elements in the script, I feel like the film could have benefited if they weren't there, or they just been a bit streamlined a bit more. I'm not sure. I think so. Even like the Smallville stuff as well, I was quite disappointed with it. I think like the Smallville stuff, particularly in Man of Steel, was always almost like the kind of emotional sort of the emotion was always kind of pulling back to that location, and you know, Superman's Earth parents, Jonathan and Martha, and here it just felt like a very like exactly what you would expect a Smallville scene to be. You know, Superman gets his ass kicked, he's got to go home, he's got to have some words with his parents, and they're like, oh no, Clark, you know, you've always, your strength has always been because you are human, and you just have this almost like if you asked an AI to create a scene of like, you know, Superman's parents and just sort of give him like the extra boost. That is exactly kind of what we got, and I was like, James Gunn, you can do better than that. Like, you can do better. He has
done better.
He has done better.
We know he can.
Yeah.
No, I completely agree. I think, first of all, I think they're underutilized, but at the same time, this film is so crammed, there's no space to add them more. So I get your point. But I think the scene with Pa Kent is pretty good. You know, I think it's emotional, but at the same time, it's nothing new, or like it is very generic.
Yeah.
But no, Ma and Pa Kent, they were a bit of a disappointment for me. Yeah.
No, I would agree. I think also, like, for me, just all the political stuff. A lot of people have said that this is clearly trying to reflect current world, situations right now. And I definitely did feel that when I watched the film. I was like, this is surely a very kind of meta thing going on here, but I don't know how I feel about that, because I just don't think any of that political stuff was ever really kind of, you know, fleshed out, or, you know, it was just a situation of like one country was trying to invade another. And of course, a lot of political reflections on, you know, the Ukraine-Russia stuff and Israel-Palestine stuff here. And for me, I just felt like that was just almost like an afterthought. So when I look back on it, it's almost like, I'm like, it's very close for me for being just a bit like exploitative in a way, because if you're just gonna like throw that in there, but, you know, not have any sort of urgency or any time given to any of that stuff really happening, I don't really know. I think you could have substituted that for something else that I think could have had the same kind of effect. There is an attempt at really kind of, because they go to that kind of the prime minister or whatever, who I am assuming is supposed to be some sort of reflection on like Putin or whatever. For me, that sort of entire storyline didn't really work. The only reason I feel like it was kind of in there was to have that one scene of like the natives kind of rebelling against the kind of dictatorship with the flag, and then having that kind of Superman moment, like, you know, that we've seen a lot of times in the trailer. So that just didn't work for me, unfortunately. I think for me, a lot of the problems just stem with the script, and I just do think like a lot of things just don't need to be there. And I feel like, you know, for a film that's supposed to kickstart a new universe, I think a lot of it lands, a lot of it doesn't land for me. That's how I feel about it.
It was there, you know, and I think it's, I don't know, it sort of felt like a throwback to the original film with how Lex Luthor wanted to own half of San Francisco or whatever the hell it was. It was just like, it did feel sort of like an afterthought in terms of how that reflects situations in the real world. And I feel like if that was the intention, it should have been handled with a bit more care, just because it's sort of just there. But I guess like it wasn't something I really focused on that much, just because like that, like you said, there's just so much more going on in the film. It just sort of felt like something on the back burner. But
a completely different and random question. What did you think when you saw Bradley Cooper as Jor-El?
Thing is, that was leaked a while back.
Oh, I didn't know. I did not know. No, I didn't know that.
It was leaked. The thing is, a bunch of stuff was leaked, including the Millie Alcott cameo, which
I didn't know that either.
I forgot that.
Yeah,
I knew it was
because she came on screen and the entire audience kind of erupted.
I was like, it was crazy. Yeah. No, the Bradley Cooper thing, that was leaked a while back. And then I was like, oh, cool. Okay, Bradley Cooper's Jor-El. Fine. Like, it's just Bradley Cooper doing a cameo as Jor-El, you know?
Yeah.
If that's going to be something down the line, sure, I'm there for it. But it was just a cameo.
Yeah. Also, that whole, like, message manipulation thing.
I didn't care for it.
See, this is what I mean. It's just like, so there was a message and then like Lex Luthor, just fucked with it, or
no, that was the real message.
That was the real message.
Yeah.
See, this is see, that's interesting. Maybe that was just me being dumb, and I was like, wait, so Lex hasn't fucked with this message? I was like, okay, really? Was that actually the real message?
Yeah.
Because it just seems like that was just almost like too good to be. That just fell perfectly into Lex's advantage.
The engineer just managed to hack that and get it out.
Yeah,
but it was the real message. But at the same time, I'm like, it's interesting, but I feel like it doesn't really. I feel like sometimes the people of Metropolis don't feel real. They feel like actors, which they are, but in the sense of like,
which they are.
But they immediately turn on Superman. Like literally within a second, they're like, this guy sucks. They're throwing stuff at him, and then the moment they find out it was Lex, they're immediately back on his side and they hate Lex again. And sure, that reflects real life when you look at it nowadays. But I feel like I want the people of Metropolis to be a little bit smarter than most of us. I get. See, this is what I mean. There's interesting ideas how media manipulation can affect the masses, etc. But yes, it is very like surface level. It's like, oh, Superman's destiny isn't to protect us, it's actually to rule us. Oh wait, no, I'm gonna try and like fuck you up now. No, like it doesn't, like, that's not how people really work. I'm a bit surprised with this because it's like James Gunn, and I'm like, James Gunn, I feel like you should be doing better in these elements, like, I don't know, the action and the kind of combat sequences, etc. What do you think of that? Generally, I love them. I think his fight with the Kaiju was great. I think his fight with the Hammer of Baravia, which is really Ultraman, was great.
Yep.
Generally speaking, I love a lot of the action. Again, Mr. Terrific's action sequence, awesome. I did not like the stuff in the Pocket Universe. Yeah. I think it looked horrible.
Yeah.
Especially when they drop into that anti-proton river. I was like, what is happening?
It looked a little bit like The Flash, right?
It looked I thought that exact same thing, and I hear it's the same director of photography or whatever it was as The Flash, which doesn't surprise me. I think it looked genuinely horrible. Yeah. Like it was, and it sucks because then there's some great stuff afterwards.
There is.
But just that one extended sequence, I was like, it was hard to look at.
No, I enjoyed the a lot of the stuff, a lot of the kind of more action-based kind of moments, like the sort of shots of like Superman flying up, like when you fall, it's brilliant. Like it's on an IMAX screen, it's fantastic. You genuinely feel like you're almost like there, literally with him. And like 1 minute he's like in one place and he fucking zooms off to another, and you're taken with him. You're not watching him from the ground up. You are front and center there with Superman. And I thought, like, in terms of like those general throws, I think they worked very well. You can see James Gunn is like, he nails those kind of moments. A lot of the fights, he has the fight with, I don't know, could you clarify, is this Bizarro? Is it Bizarro? Because it's a Kryptonian, it's a clone of him, right? That Lex Luthor does.
So they called him Ultraman. It's not Ultraman from the comics. So Ultraman from the comics is Kent Clarkson, and he's from Earth 3, from a completely different universe, and he's an evil version of Superman. It's not, they don't name him Bizarro, but Bizarro is a clone of Superman. Yeah. He's like a bit messed up. I'm assuming, at least this is the way I see it, he got flung into that black hole into wherever he goes. Yeah. Could be like an antimatter universe, which is where Bizarro is from. So maybe in a later film he'll come back looking a bit more Bizarro-esque. Yeah. But there isn't an actual character I can point to in the comics who this character is. Yeah. He's like an amalgamation of like different identities of Superman. No, for sure. I'm really trying to think if we've missed anything. Crypto was obviously a big hit. Yes, at least in the screening we went to. Loved Crypto. I loved seeing that goddamn dog just chewing everything up. He's a bad dog, by the way. Which he really is. Which makes sense at the end when you find out it's actually Supergirl's dog. Yeah. But I loved him so much. It was hilarious, and he's so cute. Yeah, I didn't expect the film to open like that as well. I know we'd seen them many times in the trailer. I was like, wow, okay, we're here. Yeah, we're here. It's like 300 years ago, 300 years ago, 30 years ago, 3 days ago, 3 hours ago. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. I don't know what's going on with the 3 there. Is there some sort of connection? No,
couldn't tell you.
It's a lucky number.
Yeah.
So and we get strung off straight to the Fortress of Solitude, and we meet the kind of super bots that kind of take it, and then
robots. Straight from this, by the way. Straight from this.
There you go.
All Star Superman.
There you go.
This is like I think this is probably the primary inspiration for this film.
This film.
Incredible, by the way.
Check it out.
I was crying at every other page.
Did you pick that up on the way here?
No. It's one I had. I read it on the way here as well. I was like, yeah.
Yeah, we get thrown straight into the Fortress of Solitude. We do almost a kind of a sunbathe, I guess, of sorts. Really kind of establishing Superman's powers, the rules of which he kind of operates under, yellow suns, not red suns. And kind of how that kind of works. I want to see at some point though, like him in a brutal fight with someone, and he just does a sun dive, just kind of comes back and clouts them.
You can't fuck with him with these sun dips.
Yeah. Well, guys, if we missed anything, please let us know in the comments, and of course, do let us know what you thought of Superman. We'd love to know whether you thought it was a good and fulfilling start to this new DC universe, or as a film, if you felt like this was, this ticked all the boxes for you, or if you're a bit more mixed, do let us know. We'd love to know. Of course, Sandy, we are going to go on to playing some games now, of course.
Do it.
A couple of games I've got for you. The first of which, since we are talking about Superman, so this game is called Superman Versus. So
it's going to be Superman.
I've prepped a list of comic book characters who could maybe give the Man of Steel a good fight, and you're going to tell me who would come out on top.
All right.
Okay. So, guys, which of these DC characters would beat Superman in a fight? You ready?
Let's do it.
Let's go. Okay. Superman versus Batman.
Superman. We're just going straight fight. Superman.
Yep. Superman versus Green Lantern.
Superman.
Superman versus Aquaman.
Superman.
Superman versus Shazam.
Superman.
Superman versus Black Adam.
Superman.
Superman versus Constantine.
Superman.
Superman versus Dr. Fate.
Superman.
Superman versus Lex Luthor with power armor.
Superman.
I had to verify.
Yeah.
Superman versus Brainiac.
Superman.
Superman versus Bizarro.
Superman.
Superman versus General Zod.
Superman.
Superman versus Captain Atom.
Superman.
Superman versus Martian Manhunter.
Superman.
Superman versus The Flash.
Superman, generally Superman.
Superman versus Wonder Woman.
Superman.
Superman versus Doomsday.
I mean, he killed him. Superman.
Superman versus the Spectre.
The thing here is the Spectre is literally the wrath of God.
Yeah.
But Superman's also kind of plot, and he had. Oh my God! Right. Okay, I'm gonna say the Spectre.
Okay.
I'm gonna say the Spectre.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the Spectre is one.
Right.
Superman versus Darkseid.
Avatar, Darkseid, or True Form, Darkseid. I'm gonna say Avatar.
I was gonna say general depiction.
Sure. Okay.
General.
Cool.
So whatever you think.
That's
whatever
Avatar, Darkseid. I'm giving it to Superman just by a smidge.
Okay. Superman or Anti-Monitor.
That's. I think I'm gonna have to say the Anti-Monitor.
Okay.
But then again, Superboy Prime did kill the Anti-Monitor, but that's not Superman. I'll say the Anti-Monitor.
Superman versus Superboy Prime.
Superboy Prime. It's
yeah, it is like
it's
the peak
Superboy Prime.
Yeah. This is the peak version. Superman versus Dr. Manhattan.
This is Doomsday Clock. You've given me Doomsday Clock here. That's the issue. And in Doomsday Clock, they just didn't fight really, because Dr. Manhattan tried to erase him from reality, but then sort of just didn't and or couldn't. Okay, but it's Dr. Manhattan because he can do anything.
Yeah,
it's Dr. Manhattan.
Well, there you go, guys.
Yeah.
Those were some of the DC characters, but don't go anywhere because we're going to play the Marvel version in a little bit. So Sandy,
God, the nerds are going to fucking play.
I know. This is what we want. We want it. So out of that list, we have I think 3 who you think would top the Man of Steel himself, and those were the Spectre. Did you say Darkseid? No.
The Spectre, the Anti-Monitor, and Dr. Manhattan.
The Spectre, the Anti-Monitor, and Dr. Manhattan. Let us know, I should say, if there are any on those lists who you feel like could have topped Superman himself. Let us know, and we'll argue with you, or Sandy will. Okay, so game number 2, Sandy. This one is quite tricky, I want to say. So you have a minute on the clock. And I want to know, Sandy, how many actors who've starred in both Marvel and DC films or DC properties can you name in a minute?
Oh, fuck it.
It is quite difficult because you're not naming obvious things. You got to really think.
Yeah. Nicholas Hoult. Brilliant. That's that. Fuck. Jesus Christ. Right. Christian Bale.
I might give you 2 minutes.
Okay. Thank you. Ben Affleck. Oh God. I'm blanking. Okay, wait. I've completely. My mind's gone completely blank. Hold on. Jesus, what's happening? All right, Marvel and DC. My mind's literally gone completely blank. Okay, hold on. I can do this. Just think of a DC film and run with that. Right. Zoe Kravitz. Has Colin Farrell been in a Marvel movie? I'm just thinking of characters from the Batman. Has he? I don't know. I don't think he has. Who else? I'm running through everything. I'm missing some very obvious ones here, aren't I?
Maybe, but not really. It's quite a niche subject. Yeah.
Let me just go through them. Iron Man, Hulk, Iron Man 2. Justin Hammer hasn't been in shit. Thor. No one in Thor, I don't think. Any of the Avengers? No. Then we have Iron Man 3. Cap. I'll look outside the MCU. I'll look at the X-Men films.
Why don't you try DC films and then you see if there's any Marvel films that they've been in?
Oh, he's helping me out here. That's not a good sign. All right.
It's tricky. It's really tough.
Yeah. Okay. DC films. Okay. No Jason Momoa. No Gal Gadot. I already said Ben Affleck. Jeremy Irons. Henry Cavill. Ray Fisher. Ezra Miller. Ezra Miller hasn't. No.
Bro needs to be stopped.
Oh fuck! Right, what am I missing? I've said the Dark Knight trilogy. Tom Hardy.
Yeah, there we go.
Fuck, that took forever. Right.
See if you could do one more.
Oh Jesus, one more. All right. What other fucking DC films exist? How have I forgotten all the DC films? Jesus. Brandon. No, those are both DC properties.
Yeah.
Michael Shannon hasn't been in anything else. Michael Keaton.
Yep, there we go. That's time, guys. That is time. That was all right. You did pretty good. It is really niche and tough subject, especially to do it under time pressure. But I think you got a good few there. So I'm going to give you some that I've got down. Okay. So Ryan Reynolds, Deadpool and Green Lantern. We have Ben Affleck, Daredevil and Batman, of course. Michael Keaton, who you said, who plays Vulture. And then, of course, he is the OG Batman, or one of the OG Batmans. Josh Brolin played Thanos, Cable, and Jonah Hex.
Jonah Hex.
Halle Berry played Storm and Catwoman, of course. Who could forget? J.K. Simmons played J. Jonah Jameson and Commissioner Gordon in the Justice League, the Snyder Cut, and, of course, the Joss Whedon version. Idris Elba plays Heimdall and Bloodsport in The Suicide Squad. Sylvester Stallone plays Stacker and King Shark. Zoe Saldana plays Gamora and plays, I can't remember what her name is. I don't have her name down on this, but she's in The Losers.
From The Losers.
Yeah. Chris Evans, Captain America and The Losers. Colin Farrell.
Oh shit, what? Wait, Penguin and who's he in Marvel? He's Bullseye.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
You had it. Willem Dafoe plays Green Goblin and he also plays Volko in Aquaman. Yeah. Lawrence Fishburne plays Bill Foster, of course, in Marvel, and Perry White in DC. Jaimon Honsu plays Korath.
Oh, he plays everyone.
And Shazam, the Wizard. Angela Bassett plays Queen Ramonda in Black Panther, and Amanda Waller in The Green Lantern. In Ryan Green Lantern. Taika Waititi plays Korg and plays Ratcatcher 1.
Yes.
And last but not least, who you said, of course, Mr. Tom Hardy plays Venom and Bane in The Dark Knight Rises. There you go. There is a sum of, I'm sure a lot more actors who have starred in both Marvel and DC. Do let us know which ones we've missed. But yeah, there you go. Well, that was a little that was a good brain exercise there. We are going to go back to the game of Superman versus. Now, Sandy, I just did a list of DC characters with you. We are going to do the exact same, but of course this time we are going to go to the opposite side. We're going to do Marvel. Okay, so which of these Marvel characters would beat Superman in a fight? Okay, so Superman versus Spider-Man.
Superman.
Superman versus Iron Man.
Superman.
Superman versus Captain America.
Superman.
Superman versus Black Panther.
Superman.
Superman versus Captain Marvel.
Superman.
Superman versus the Vision.
Superman.
Superman versus the Hulk.
I'm gonna say Superman. I wouldn't mind if someone argues.
Superman versus Thor.
Okay, look, I'm going to make this very clear right now. We're not doing the version of Thor who has the power cosmic, the Phoenix Force, the Odin Force, the Thor Force. That's a very recent development in comics. Okay, we're just going to go for like the general version of Thor and the general version of Superman.
Superman versus Sentry.
That one's a tough one because Sentry is such a inconsistent character. I've got no idea whether his powers are actually there or whether they exist inside his head. So with that said, we're going to say Superman.
Superman versus Silver Surfer.
This one's going to piss a lot of people off. Jesus Christ. Right. I'll say Silver Surfer's faster. But he's got the power cosmic. I think there's a debate to be had, but I don't want to piss too many people off, so I'll say Silver Surfer.
Okay. All right. Superman versus Adam Warlock.
Superman.
Superman versus Gladiator.
Superman.
Superman versus Hercules.
Superman.
Superman versus Hyperion.
Superman.
Superman versus Ghost Rider.
Oh god, this is gonna get me in so much shit. This is gonna get me in so much shit. I think there's an argument to be made, but I'm willing to concede that it's Ghost Rider.
Okay. Superman versus Doctor Strange.
Superman.
Superman versus Scarlet Witch.
This is another one. Okay, look.
You throw in the reality warping.
Look, I know that nowadays, current Scarlet Witch would probably beat Superman. She's on a different level. But if we just looked at her entire comic book history, okay, generally speaking, she's been a character who can be hit with a fucking vibranium shield and knocked out, so I'm going to say Superman.
Okay.
Generally. Relax.
Superman versus Apocalypse.
I think if Superman gets in there quick enough, he could knock Apocalypse out, so I'm going to say Superman.
Okay. Superman versus Thanos.
I think Superman. I think that one's... if Superman's taking on Darkseid, Superman's taking on Thanos.
Okay. Superman versus Doctor Doom.
Superman.
Okay.
In the same way I said he beats Batman.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, there you go, guys. Those were some of the characters who may or may not beat Superman. In fact,
I know Superman's. I know Doctor Strange. I know Doctor Doom is now the Sorcerer Supreme. Behave. Right.
There we go. That could. They're already typing, dude. You fucking. So out of that list, Sandy, you have said Silver Surfer.
Mm-hmm.
You've also said Ghost Rider, Scarlet Witch, potentially. Oops, no, you didn't say Scarlet Witch. Yeah. That's it. I think that's it.
Yeah.
Silver Surfer and Ghost Rider, potentially the only two on this list who could put up a fight against Man of Steel, and best him. Well, there you go. That was game number 3. So for our fourth and final game, Mr. Movie Comic Junkie, we have a very difficult round of Guess the Imposter.
All right.
Guess the Imposter in the comic book film cast. Okay. Here we go. So first up, we have Oscar Isaac, Daniel Kaluuya, Zendaya, and Jason Schwartzman.
Yo, what? Oscar Isaac,
Daniel Kaluuya,
Zendaya,
and Jason Schwartzman.
And these are comic book movies. Zendaya's only been in Spider-Man films, right? No. That seems too easy. That seems too obvious. Jason Schwartzman, what's that bloke doing there? Hold on. I'm going to say Daniel Kaluuya
is the imposter.
Yeah.
That would be incorrect.
Because I've got no idea. I was throwing out a guess.
So the imposter is actually Zendaya.
So Oscar Isaac, Daniel Kaluuya, and Jason Schwartzman in a comic book film.
What's the film? It might not be live action.
Oh no, you haven't done that. You haven't done that.
It is difficult.
You haven't done that. Oh, that's messed up, man. Oh my God, it's Spider-Verse.
Oh gosh, there we go.
So messed up.
Are you paying attention now? Let's go. So up next we have Barry Keoghan, Angelina Jolie, Andy Serkis, Colin Farrell.
Angelina Jolie is the Batman.
That is correct. There we go. We are back. Up next we have Sophie Turner, Zoe Kravitz, Kevin Bacon, Jennifer Lawrence.
Sophie Turner is X-Men First Class.
That is correct.
Trick me with the X-Men.
Yeah. Up next we have Michael Keaton, Adria Ohona, Dakota Johnson, and Tyrese Gibson.
Michael Keaton is Madam Web.
No.
Wait.
No, it's not.
No, it's wait. No. Wait. Oh my God. It's Morbius. It's Morbius.
It is Morbius.
Who is? Ahona's in it. Keaton's in it, and it's Dakota Johnson, isn't it?
That is correct. That is correct.
You threw the wrong spum.
It's Morbin time. And finally,
shitty Sony movie.
And that's cancelled now. Finally.
Thank God.
Fuck it out.
Yeah.
For your final round, we have Holly Hunter, Samuel L. Jackson, Lawrence Fishburne, and Jesse Eisenberg.
This is going to be a niche comic book movie, isn't it? It's not going to be a mainline one. That's what I'm thinking. Samuel L. Jackson. Who are the other two? Who are the other three, sorry?
So Holly Hunter, Samuel L. Jackson, Lawrence Fishburne, and Jesse Eisenberg.
Samuel L. Jackson.
And the film?
It's one of them. Which one is it?
Are you sure it's Samuel L. Jackson?
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to say it's because I'm seeing Lawrence Fishburne and Jesse Eisenberg, and it's making me think it's Batman v Superman. Oh, what if it's the Snyder Cut?
Oh, what if it is the Snyder Cut? Samuel L. Jackson is Snyder Cut. Motherfuckers! Get your ass out!
Yeah, go on. I'm going to say Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Very, very close. So the imposter is Samuel L. Jackson. The film is Batman vs. Superman. Holly Hunter plays the senator. Today is a day for truth. Do you remember?
Jar of piss.
Yeah, jar of piss.
Jar of piss.
Boom.
Brilliant. Yeah.
And there we have it, guys.
Okay.
There you go. How's that?
Do you know what? It wasn't as bad as I thought.
Yeah. It was slightly, the difficulty level was slightly up a notch, I think, from usual rounds. And of course, it's either going to be difficult or super easy if it's a comic book film cast. So there you go. Well, there you go, guys. That is game number 4, and that concludes this episode on Superman. Thank you so much, Andy, Mr. Movie Comic Junkie, for coming and chatting all about the Man of Steel himself in his latest cinematic outing. It's been such a pleasure, as always, just having you here. So thank you for your time. And guys, thank you as well for watching and for listening. We will catch you very soon, of course, as always, in the next episode of the Popcorn Podcast. Cheers.